we had an interfaith discussion with a father. Oh, subhanAllah. We sound now? Okay, brothers and sisters, really sorry about that. So we were live, but we had no sound. So like I was saying earlier, this is a live IRA Dawah Q&A. We are here to address your questions and inshallah engage with you guys. The whole point of the show is to engage with you and get your, just to interact with you, get your thoughts in, get your questions in, and try to answer them the best we can. So yeah, start sending in your questions, inshallah, if you haven't already. And we were talking about an event that we were at yesterday.
Yes,
so,
Haikum.
Sorry, let me introduce Salahuddin again. Salahuddin's live with us again today since he hasn't been with us since last Ramadan, as far as I can remember.
It's been a while, yes. Yeah, alhamdulillah, good. Been busy in a lot of different things, so it's good to be back online. Looking forward to some of the questions that are going to be asked today.
What's been keeping you busy recently?
There's been a lot, actually.
Share some stuff with us.
Well, obviously, one of the main things was the World Cup in Qatar.
Yeah.
Inshallah, that was an amazing experience. Lots of things to be experienced in the World Cup. So yeah, it was an amazing time. The World Cup itself was an incredible experience. Like the first time a Muslim country sort of was involved with such a massive sporting event, and we had such amazing response. And then after that, alhamdulillah, I was also in Turkey. I got to meet one of the brothers there, and now we're gearing up for Ramadan, inshallah. So alhamdulillah, we've been keeping busy also with the One Reason project, the online chat as well. So if you have any questions related to Dawah, we're really looking forward to any sort of questions, any things that you may be thinking about in terms of the Dawah, maybe some of the conversations you want to have with some people that you may know. So anything, we're here to answer your questions. So I think before we were going to speak about an event you were at yesterday, Imran.
Yeah, so we were at a sixth form, Catholic sixth form, and we had an event with a father, a Jesuit father, which was very interesting. It was a good discussion, and we shared Islam and, clarified what Islam is, engaged with the students. And it was nice. It was, it's these types of discussions, I think, are better in some ways to debates because it's a bit more civil.
Yeah.
People seem to have the intention of trying to understand each other a bit better. So yeah, I used to not like interfaith too much before, to be honest, bro, it was because of my own ignorance and my own assumptions about interfaith events. Some of which may be true in some circumstances. That I felt that interfaiths were all about lovey-dovey, and it was all about not that it shouldn't be about lovey-dovey, but it was all about just I agree with you, you agree with me, and that's why we're happy together. Yeah, that does happen, but I think if interfaith is done properly, like if you're there as a Muslim, and as long as you don't try to make up things or say things just to appease the other, and you genuinely want to discuss each other's differences to try and understand each other and just be tolerant of each other's views. I think that's very powerful. We tried to do that yesterday, alhamdulillah.
I think it was a really good event, at the school to invite, a Muslim, and also the person you were speaking to, I think, was in, I think we got a question on the screen. We'll come back to that. So yes. Dreno is asking, I've had a lot of Christian missionaries come up to me. What should I do as a Muslim?
Training.ira.org. Go to the training.ira.org website, bro. Go through the Dawah training course first and foremost, because that will give you a baseline on how to give Dawah, right? It's a very good, course to start off with. It'll give you an understanding of things you need to talk about. It'll teach you how to redirect the conversation and take control of the conversation, no matter who you're speaking to. And it's a very powerful technique, especially when dealing with missionaries, because they can tend to be quite overpowering with their perspectives and views. And it will just teach you how to stick to the foundations and the fundamentals. Aside from that, is there anything else you want to add, Salahuddin, to Dawah to Christians or missionaries?
Well, I mean, there's a specific question was talking about missionaries, right? And so we have a lot of experience of doing Dawah on the ground and going to events. So with this, obviously, a lot of this you learn from your own experience. But if you're talking about missionaries that are coming up to you, you have to understand, look, what is their objective? their objective is to share what they believe in. And so, you know, a lot of the times I see, you know, a mistake being made in the Dawah where people try to engage with Christian missionaries with the idea that, you know, they may be able to, you know, convince that person to change their faith. And what tends to happen is they tend to forget one of the tactics that are being used in the Dawah is a missionary will come up to people doing Dawah as a tactic to keep them busy so that they do not go and speak to other people about Islam, right? And so this is very important. And again, you have to basically understand that there is an aspect to that. So first and foremost is obviously go and educate yourself, train yourself up, like Imran said, but also understand, look, our job is to convey the message of Islam to humanity, right? And so you have to judge it, like, you know, wasting hours and hours trying to, you know, getting into a discussion with a missionary, and a lot of the times it will become heated, could be wasted effort. You could be spending that time speaking to someone who's really actually interested in Islam. So I would add that element, Imran.
Yeah, and just share what you believe in.
Yes.
You know, a lot of times when we get engaged with missionaries, we end up focusing on breaking down what they're saying,
Yeah.
as opposed to sharing what we have.
100%.
You know, so just share, at the very least, share what Islam is with them. You know, and if you don't want to get involved in the nitty-gritty discussions, which, like Salahuddin said, aren't fruitful in most cases, then just tell them that, look, it's not my position to come here and debate you, nor do I have the time.
Yeah.
But now that we're discussing things, you shared your perspective, let me share my perspective with you, and something, you know, you can go away and think about, inshallah.
Inshallah. Do we have another question or comment?
Dawah.
Question wrapped in here, but he hasn't been specific with that question.
Dawah in the Caribbean.
Out into what's happening in the Caribbean,
Okay, yeah.
otherwise and whatever.
Very interesting question. So, Young Soul, Dawah in the Caribbean. So, as you know, or you may not be aware, IRA is a global Dawah organization. And so we have Dawah activities, you know, programs across the world. And that includes Latin America and the Caribbean. And alhamdulillah, you know, I'm sure Jamal, maybe you can come in here, but there's a lot of Muslims that live in the... Oh, okay. Jamal's not mic'd. But there's a lot of... Dawah that's happening in the Caribbean, and there's a lot of Muslims there as well. So I do know in terms of Dawah in the Caribbean, like for example Trinidad, Jamaica, there are a lot of Dawah activities happening in these regions, and there is a strong Muslim presence in these areas. But of course they could do with more, inshallah. But yeah, alhamdulillah, it's you know, we do need more Dawah. I mean, if you look at the region, you know, in terms of Latin America, Caribbean, predominantly you'll find people that are from a Christian faith, Christian background, and people are more sort of inclined towards religion and spirituality. And so Dawah in the Caribbean, if you're talking about the effectiveness of Dawah in the Caribbean, it is actually very effective. A lot of people coming from a Latin American background are interested in Islam, especially the sisters. You see vast numbers of people embracing Islam, and I think that's for a number of reasons, right, Imran?
Yeah, absolutely, bro. It's, you'll notice this in many places in the world where people, it's because they haven't been affected by all of the negativity and the false news out there about Islam as much as people are in the West.
Yeah.
So I think that makes a big difference.
And I think they're less secular, they're more spiritual,
Yeah.
they're more family oriented, you know. When it comes to the Christian faith, they're like very adherent in terms of like they have a strong bond to faith. So when we share the message of Islam, the message of Tawheed, a lot of people embrace Islam. So, you know, that's what Dawah is all about, is going out there, conveying the message of Islam, you know, in the correct way. And so Allah opens the hearts to the people. And so, yeah, the Caribbean, mashallah, it's amazing work that's happening down there. Maybe if you've got a comment regarding the Dawah in the Caribbean, if you've got any experience, that'd be great for you to share on this program, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jamal's laughing, so something's happened. Any questions, bro? We've got some nice questions in, yeah?
Another question here, but you can relate this to Dawah.
He's got really serious
You
immediately.
mentioned signing up with IRA, but I think he's just talking about Dawah in general. This is different. This is unrelated.
Okay. I do want to know the funny question, but yeah.
Here you
inshallah.
go. You could read this one out.
So Ikra says, I wanted to sign up with IRA for such a long time. I can't concentrate because Musa keeps laughing, but I feel my intention is not sincere, so therefore I've held back. No,
Mashallah.
sister Ikra, don't hold back. intention is something that always wavers, is up and down. As long as you're making the efforts to ensure your intention is as best as you can get it, then make dua to Allah, ask Allah to help you with sincerity, and just do the action. Do the action. Do the dawah training course. Look, because you're going to be doing the course, if you're talking about the online course, by yourself, right? So it's a private thing you're going to be doing. People aren't going to be watching the fact that you're doing the course or know that you're going to be doing the course. So at least do the course. And in the course itself, we talk about sincerity, and that should inshallah help you as well. But that should never, sincerity should never be the reason that you don't do da'wah. That's not to say that you shouldn't focus on it, but it shouldn't be an excuse not to give da'wah. So you have to find the balance, inshallah, in regards to that.
I mean, it's really interesting that, when you link this to the dawah, I mean, it shows that, the person is really concerned in terms of their state when they want to do dawah. And I think, obviously intention is a very important aspect of any Islamic action that you do. You need to have the correct intention. But as Imran said, make the intention, for the sake of Allah, and then take the action as well, because the reward is in the intention and the action. And so you need to, we've tried to make it as easy as possible here at AIRA in terms of getting involved in the dawah. You can go to the website, you can sign up for the training courses. Inshallah, we're looking for volunteers. We also have online chat as well, where you can get involved in dawah from the comfort of your home, using your telephone, your mobile phone. That's or right. A laptop. And we're very flexible, and so that's what AIRA is all about. We need people to get involved and support the dawah. So, Sister Ikram, we look forward for you to get involved in the dawah, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. So, do we have any more questions?
Milad says, any plans for dawah in Suriname? Suriname. There are many Muslims there, but unfortunately the religion is on the decline.
So the first question is, where is Suriname?
Yeah.
Does anyone know? Do you know?
Sri Lanka.
You think it's Sri Lanka? Okay. What about
somewhere
the guys in the
East
back?
Asia.
Suriname is an island.
Here we go. Mr. Historian stood up to answer the question.
There's many of them in Holland. People from Suriname.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. They have Surinamese cuisine in Holland.
So which continent is it?
They're like Latin American. No, they're not Latin American.
Do you know, Slaudin, or you just
I
asking?
think they're near Brazil. They are near Brazil.
Yeah, either it's the Caribbean or Latin America. I don't think it's Africa, right?
No, it's not Africa. It's different.
Okay. South
America.
America. Okay, Jazakallah khair.
I was way off.
Safi.
I was, like always with my geography, I was way off.
It's next to Guyana.
Next to Guyana. Ah, okay. Right. Yes. Yes. I remember
Where's Guyana, bro?
Guyana's at the top of Latin America. I know that because I was speaking to Andres about that region, and he was telling me there's a lot of, like you said, a lot of Muslims in that area. But yeah, I guess, like you said, the Muslims are in decline. Maybe you can expand upon that. We don't know exactly what's happening there, but the point being is dawah is one way of countering this sort of, this sort of globalization of secularization and people not being religious and not being connected. What do you think, Imran? Getting involved in the dawah to sort of counter
dawah
this?
is definitely going to be a part of the solution, because especially our dawah training course, it's designed to give dawah to non-Muslims, but it actually benefits Muslims too, when they go through it, because it touches upon fundamental things which are relevant to even Muslims, and things they need to renew and think about continuously. So yeah, that can definitely help with practicing, but I think there is an element of spirituality as well, bro, which needs to be brought in. I think one of the things missing in our age, because a lot of the times in the dawah we are focusing on addressing people who have a specific mindset, a rationalist type of mindset. So when we give the dawah, we it's sometimes unconscious that it becomes very rational sometimes, the dawah, which is fine. It may satisfy the intellect, but it doesn't satisfy another aspect of the human being, which also needs to be satisfied, which is the soul. This spiritual connection, this experience with Allah, this awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I think that thing is especially missing for the youth. And you got, even amongst the practicing youth, sometimes you'll see they'll get, they start practicing within 6 months. They are, mashallah, dressing and behaving like they are, serious students of knowledge, which I'm sure they're on the way to becoming, but then they start acting like, they know it all and start pointing out things towards the other. You don't see that spirituality, that self-awareness, that consciousness of focusing on oneself and developing oneself. And it shows it's lacking. Spirituality is really lacking.
I think it's quite interesting because I've been thinking about this for a little while.
How long? Serious question, man. How long?
A while, a while is...
Could be a decade, couple of decades.
I think, look, if we look at
slowly.
like what's happened in terms of the world, in terms of we live in this time of scientism, secularism, rationality, everything is based upon something that we can measure, something that we can prove, tangible things. I think, humanity has been stripped a big part of themselves, which is their spiritual aspect, right? We don't hear about people talking about,
That's right.
the soul, your spirituality, because it's something that is nothing that is part of science. Science does not believe in the supernatural. Science does not believe in things that are part of the unseen, and the soul is part of the unseen. So it's almost like it's been stripped, so there's no priority towards it. And so, again, when it comes to the dawah, it's a very sort of rational as well. So we got a follow-up here from Brother Malad. He's saying Islam in Suriname went from 25% to 14% in the past 40 years. One of the reasons is the community's isolation. SubhanAllah, yeah, that's quite a lot, a big drop.
What do you mean isolation? That
I think he means like maybe the Muslim community.
isolating themselves?
Yeah.
But how would that decrease the population so? Meaning, so they're not engaging with others and sharing.
Yeah,
the
maybe
message.
Brother Melad can expand upon in terms of isolation, but that's obviously very
That's interesting if that's the
dramatic.
case, bro, because a lot of times Muslims in non-Muslim areas think that if we isolate, we'll be protecting ourselves. But, this seems to be the opposite case because, I don't know how, maybe they're just not having more kids, or if you've isolated yourself, or, it would be nice to get some more information on that, inshallah. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see that what is causing that, effect, because usually we know generally around the world people are becoming less and less religious, right? And that's including the Muslim communities. Like less people are practicing. The youth are more interested in, things that are not traditionally of, the older generation would be doing as part and parcel of their life. You see in the masjids, right? You see less youth in the masjid. So I can understand in terms of a practicing, but like in terms of dropping like at least 10%, it'd be interesting to know. But the main thing is, look, it starts with yourself. Start with yourself. If you want to see change in the world, first change yourself. And once you start changing yourself, then people will notice the change within you, and then you can have an impact. And that's what our Dawah training course teaches, is like, first learn how to yourself be connected to Allah. And Dawah is a great way of doing that. The amount of people that we see that have transformed their lives because that they've got involved in that, because what naturally happens is you're making the word of Allah the Most High, so Islam is on your mind. Again, you're advising people, you're talking about the Quran, you're talking about the Prophet ﷺ, all of these spiritual elements, so you yourself become spiritual. Then you're in an environment of other brothers and sisters that are more spiritual, and then you'll be linked to the mosques. So these things are holistic, and then it branches out, and so if you want to see change, why don't you become the center point for that change, inshallah? So start with the dawah, inshallah.
Yes.
Special salams here from Bradley Craigie Williams, used to be part of IERA.
MashaAllah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, brother Mr.
MashaAllah.
Bradley. MashaAllah. I only see this brother during Ramadan, when we go for Ramadan prayers. I normally see him with his family, big, massive family, MashaAllah.
MashaAllah.
Hopefully he is well. He's a revert to Islam. Interesting story. He was working with my sister in Asda in Wembley Park. Both of them before they were Muslim.
SubhanAllah.
And then both of them became Muslim, and then they basically both were volunteers for IERA. MashaAllah. So, Assalamualaikum, Brother Bradley. MashaAllah.
Next question, we could relate this to Dawah.
Yeah.
Isn't ikhlas the most
You want to read out?
important thing? Yeah, isn't what's the name?
Marcelo.
Marcelo LB12 says, isn't ikhlas the most important thing for any Muslim? Comments?
Isn't ikhlas the most important thing for any Muslim? Yes. So we know sincerity is the foundation to any action to be accepted, in terms of it being rewardable. So of course, when it comes to ikhlas, your sincerity, it'd be good if we could get Brother Musa on this question.
He's on the phone.
But he's on the phone right now. But when it comes to sincerity, obviously, all actions are by intentions, like it's mentioned in the hadith, right? And so the first and foremost, your intention must be pure for the sake of Allah. And so we teach this again on our Dawah training course, that, there are three main intentions that you can have. The first one, which are obviously for an action to be accepted, the first one is you do it purely for the sake of Allah. Secondly, you do it for the reward of Jannah. And thirdly, to be protected from the punishment of the fire. But linked to that, for any action to be accepted, you need two key elements. The first element is sincerity. The second element is that you do it according to the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's a foundational point of any action, Islam, not just dawah. But the point, I think, if it's linked to the previous question, where the sister asks that, she wasn't too sure in terms of getting involved in dawah because of her intention. What the point Imran was saying is, ikhlas is something that you can make and then you take the action, right? And don't let that be a barrier for you to get involved in dawah, because you're missing out in so much reward, but it's a good sign to show that, you have good ikhlas.
Yeah, I mean, with sincerity, you can just do what you need to do to try and ensure your sincerity is there.
Yes.
But you can never be certain. You can't
Yes.
sit there and say, yep, my sincerity is at 100% now. Now is the time for me to act. That's why the scholars say, just do the action. Make your intention and then do the action, and keep renewing your intention if you need to renew your intention. But don't make it the case that you don't do the action and that becomes an excuse. Because that's what
100%.
Shaitan wants. He wants you
Yes.
not to act. So yeah, inshallah.
Hope that answers the question, Marcelo, inshallah.
How to give proper dawah to people of the Hindu religion. Proper dawah to Hindu religion. We have, mashallah, Salahuddin here, who's probably best suited to answer this question. So tell us, bro, proper dawah to our Hindu
So, Brother
brothers and
Anaf
sisters in
Hassan,
humanity.
salam alaikum. So yeah, I mean, look, Hinduism, first you need to understand a few basic points, because, when it comes to Hinduism, the term Hinduism is almost like saying monotheism, because there are many different branches of Hinduism, right? So, when they say with the monotheistic faiths, you have Judaism, Christianity, and Islam under that sort of big umbrella.
That's right.
Right? Obviously, according to our tradition, there's only one monotheistic faith, which is Islam, right? Which is pure. But when it comes to Hinduism, the point we're trying to make is there's many different variations. There's a lot of things that are in common when it comes to the Hindu faith, right? So some of the basic fundamentals, they believe in idolatry, right? They believe in pantheism. Pantheism meaning that is
Worshipping many gods.
worshipping many gods, and God comes down in human form. God is within the creation. They believe in this idea of karma and reincarnation. So there's a lot of different elements that are common. And so I would say, again, if you were going to approach someone from a Christian background, from a different sort of background, you need to sort of judge where they're at. But in terms of just basic Hindu sort of things that you can speak to them about, I think the main thing you want to sort of get across is this idea of Tawheed to them, because we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made every human being born upon this natural state of fitra, which is believing, in something greater, believing in Allah. And so what you want to do is use techniques to try and reignite that with the Hindu person, because in Hinduism they believe in many gods, they believe in many idols. Someone who's maybe a bit more learned may say, well, actually they all link back to this one deity, right? And so that's the main key element, because when it comes to when we look at our tradition, the Prophet ﷺ, he was born into a pagan society which had many idols, right? When we look at the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was born in the Babylonian civilization, right? His father was a chief idol maker. And again, he had to convey the message of Tawheed and Islam. So what are some of the techniques that they use? Some techniques, like you said, is just like using some rational arguments, like, we know the story that he used to throw the idols, into the river, and then he would ask them, if you were God, try and save yourselves. Also, we know the famous story that Ibrahim alayhi salam smashed the idols. He left the largest one, and then basically when the people came back, they questioned him because he remained in the city, and he said, well, why don't you ask the big idol? It's got the axe next to it. And the whole idea behind this, if you look at the sort of methodology, what he's trying to get them to do is to think that something that's made by a human being, can that actually be your creator? Does that actually have any intrinsic power? And so once you get them to that point to sort of reflect and think, we know Ibrahim alayhi salam, again, he used that when he met those people who were worshipping the suns and the stars. He took them through a process of thinking and then getting them to a point where they say, actually, our creator must be greater than all of this. It can't be something that's within an idol, something that's man-made. It can't be something that there are many gods. There must be. So I would say start with that and then move towards, maybe a bit more specifics. But I think the key thing when you're giving dawah is to build a relationship with the person.
Yeah.
It's not about arguing, you're right and that's wrong, because what's going to happen is you're going to put a barrier up between this person and yourself, and you just want to get the message across in the best possible way. Inshallah.
I'm in Bangladesh. It is basically a taboo thing to give dawah to Hindu people. I will get called radical and might have issues with the police. So I just try to be friendly around them. Bro, you seem like a young brother, mashallah, and that's very wise. Yeah, it's a very wise thing to do. And it's something we can learn from this is, context is very important. You need to look at your environment. You need to look at safety. You need to look at if it's going to cause you problems. You need to think about, can you even do dawah in your location? So just do the best you can. If you can't do dawah publicly, then don't do it. Just go, it's online. You got the internet. Go online and give dawah. If you can't do that, maybe do it through writing or whatever the case is, anonymously. There's many ways, right? But just be creative with it and have wisdom when it comes to deciding what to do in your locality, inshallah.
I think, some of the best dawah, Imran, that you see people that come to Islam is that are non-Muslims, is that they have Muslim friends, right? And a lot of the times you find that the people are not even actually doing active dawah. They're just spending time with them, taking them, socializing, being friends, going for dinner, doing things together. And then naturally what tends to happen is when the brother is like going to pray, or, he's eating halal meat, or he's fasting during Ramadan, they see these characteristics that Muslims have that we know, the Prophet ﷺ, we try to emulate. This becomes a point of inquiry, inshallah. So just continue doing that.
Just be a good friend, be a good example. So,
be a good example.
Brother, don't feel the need or the urge to do something, and you know that's going to get you in trouble. No, you don't have to do that. Just give dawah through your actions. And I'll tell you this from experience, bro. Most of the discussions I've had with Hindus, the best discussions I've had where they've been very receptive and they've listened, have been with those Hindus that have had Muslim friends growing up.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Absolutely. Because there's something, like I said, there's something within every human being, that's there. And then when they see the Muslim, who's got good characteristics, they do certain actions, it ignites something. And I would say also, brother from Bangladesh, also be prepared, So a lot of the time, when it comes to someone wanting to know, is to be educated into giving dawah. So don't forget to go to the website, training.ira.org, is that right?
Training.ira.org, yes.
Yeah, training.ira.org. And you can basically learn the basic Go-Rap training. And so that, inshallah, when you're being a good friend to someone, when they do ask you a question like, tell me about the concept of God, or tell me, about the Quran. Why is it the word of Allah? Or why the Prophet ﷺ is the last and final messenger? What evidence is you're prepared, you're ready to answer that question? So make sure you educate yourself in training as well, inshallah. So do we have any more?
We've got loads of questions, Jamal, or just a couple, bro?
Mashallah, they keep on coming.
Give us a gauge on how quick to answer them, inshallah.
Yeah, you're good. Your pace is fine.
Okay.
Good.
Do you want to read it?
Yeah, so Ibrahim Inusa, assalamu alaikum. Our campus has about 70% international students, with the majority being non-Muslim and non-practicing Muslims, and a few practice Muslims. We are planning da'wah for Ramadan, da'wah this Ramadan. Please, advice, please. Okay, brilliant. Ramadan, first and foremost, Ramadan is an amazing month. Obviously, we know the main aspect is we use this month because it's a month that we can get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as Muslims, we have certain practices that we focus on, and it's all about taqwa, to develop that taqwa, that God consciousness through fasting. And Ramadan, from a dawah perspective, is such a great opportunity, because you always see this question, especially, when you're working in non-Muslim environments, like, wow, you guys are going to fast for an entire month. How are you going to survive? What, you can't even drink water throughout the day, There's such a common question and common theme that comes up. And so these are opportunities for you then to speak about what Ramadan is, how special and blessed the month is, that we're fasting so that we get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then link that back to dawah. Other things that you can do during Ramadan is, if you got friends who are inquisitive, is invite them to challenge them. Let's see if you could fast for a day, like a Muslims do. And then what we'll do as a reward is we'll take you for iftar, invite them for iftar, at the masjid, because iftar is open to everyone. Bring them, let them experience the communal aspect of Ramadan, where everyone, breaks the food together after fasting, and then use that as an opportunity to talk about, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during this blessed month, because, that month there's something happens in the world, Imran. There's a level of spirituality. You feel it that you don't feel in any other month, right? And it's not just for the Muslims. There's this spiritual element. So take that advantage.
That's right.
Anything you'd like to add to that, inshallah?
Not at all, bro.
Any advice, Jamal, in terms of Ramadan?
They wouldn't hear me anyway.
You could tell us.
I was going to say, it's a good point that you made, Salahuddin, because in terms of turning something into a dawah conversation in Ramadan, so like, how would you do that as an example if someone says, I don't know how you Muslims can fast all day in this heat?
Very good. So very good question. So Imran, I'm going to put that to you. I want to be the
as a role play. Yeah.
I'm a non-Muslim.
Yep.
And you're the Muslim.
All right.
Say, Imran.
So let's put ourselves in the brother situation. We're on campus. I've got a table.
Yes.
Yeah. And you come over to my table.
Yeah, okay. Or even I just see you in the lecture hall.
All right.
Right? And I'm having my lunch. I'm eating, and then I look across. You haven't got your food.
Yeah.
Right? I say, so Imran, you're not eating. You want some of my sandwich?
No. I'm good. Thank you.
Come on, I got loads, man. It's really tasty.
I can't eat today. I'm fasting.
Why can't you eat?
Because it's Ramadan and I'm fasting.
What's Ramadan?
You don't know what Ramadan is?
No.
So Ramadan basically is a month that we Muslims celebrate, right?
Right.
And I'd love to give you more information on it and something really interesting. But before I do that, if you have a couple of minutes while you're eating your sandwich, can I share some of the sort of fundamentals of Islam with you first?
Yeah, I'm really interesting that you're not eating during the daytime.
Yeah, we'll get to it. I'm going to give you an answer.
Okay.
But I want you to really appreciate the answer.
Okay.
Right? And understand it fully, right? So why would we sacrifice food and everything?
Right.
But for you to really appreciate that, you need to understand some of the basics of Islam first. So if you have a couple of minutes?
Yeah, I've got a few minutes.
Yeah, you almost done with your sandwich?
Yeah. I feel quite guilty now
one.
that I'm eating and you're not allowed to eat.
You keep eating. I'll be eating later on. But so yeah, that's what you do basically. And
Okay.
then you go to the discussion about, next thing I'll do is I'll ask him about God's existence. Does he believe in God? Based on what he says, then we go through the Go Rap, which you guys can cover on training.ira.org, inshallah.
Nice, interesting technique. Is anything?
Is it interesting? Have you never come across it before, Salahuddin?
No, I mean, I would say I would definitely do exactly what you did, but I would do it in a different way slightly.
How?
I would talk about Ramadan and then use that to go into God's existence.
Yeah, no, but you know, in the course, the way it's, you know, the textbook, if you like, the
Yes.
textbook version is you don't give the answer straight away, but you get back to the answer later.
Yeah,
But
no,
I mean,
no,
you
I
could
get
be
it.
flexible with this,
It's
bro. Of course
flexible.
you
Go
can,
Rap is
yeah.
very flexible. You know, the main point is you use it as a framework
Yeah.
to convey the message of Islam, and Ramadan is a great opportunity to do that. I know, like, remember we going to a campaign during Ramadan where these local mosques across the country, they had signed up.
Yep.
And what they were doing was they were inviting the local non-Muslim community to come into the mosque to have iftar with them. So they'll get a free meal.
I want to get Musa on for a bit if we can as well. You stay there. We'll put a little stool for him here, innit? Get him to come
Or we
and
can
sit.
come from behind, or there's no camera behind.
No, there's no comeback.
Get a little stool.
It won't work, bro.
Oh, he's not gonna come, Subhanallah. It'll be nice. He's sitting, mashallah. I just felt he wanted.
I felt he wanted to, but yeah, it was a
Pop in.
really nice campaign, and the idea was
Yeah.
to invite people to come and have iftar together,
Yeah.
right? So imagine they have a nice meal, and then during the meal, you get someone to speak about what Ramadan is and the basics of Islam. And you know, when it comes to food, bro, food is universal when it comes to getting people together, gathering people together, inshallah.
Oh, he's got a mic.
He's got a mic, so let's get Musa involved, inshallah.
So next question, Musa's gonna answer. Jamal, make it a good
Shocking.
one, bro. Make it that funny one you guys were looking at earlier. Inshallah.
Is dawah possible in China?
There we go.
There you go, Musa,
Straight
come
into
on.
the deep end.
Should we send Salahuddin there as a trial? I mean, I don't know. Is dawah possible in China?
It's a good question, actually. I can give you some input. So we went to Hong Kong
Okay.
a few years ago, mashallah, on the Dawah program. And as you know, Hong Kong was part of the British sort of colony, and then it was handed back. But there's this period of, I think, 50 years where they still have this sort of liberal sort of rule. So there's still a lot of options. It's not like mainland China. And so one of the things that they were sort of working on was to try and get as much dawah done as possible. And Hong Kong was really nice. There's a Muslim community there. There's a good few masajids. And so they were trying to engage. But when it came to this idea of dawah in mainland China, we were told it's not possible. That it's completely banned. It's not allowed. And so you have to use different avenues.
What is that because of legalities and stuff?
Yeah, I think it's just for political and legal reasons. They do not allow propagation of Islam or religion, just the way the society is. But you know what? The great thing is that if you look at the plan of Allah, if you look at China right now, it's a powerhouse, right? And it's one of the biggest sort of economies in the world. And as a result of that, a lot of the Chinese now are flooding into all different countries across the world, especially here in the UK, in the West, where they're coming here for education. And when they come here for education, they get this experience of different cultures, and so they will definitely come across Muslims. So one way we can sort of give dawah to the Chinese people is Chinese communities here, whether it's in the educational environments or it's in the workplace. We should try and engage them because we know they're going to be going back, And the Chinese are no different from any other human being. We're all Bani Adam at the end of the day. They all need the message of Islam. And we also know that's a great tradition of dawah in China. Maybe, Musa can speak about that from his sort of history angle. And also, we know there's Muslim communities that reside in China as well. Anything you want to add to that, Musa, in terms of the history of Islam in China?
I think Muslims have definitely, from a historical perspective, been in China, gone to China. Yeah, I mean, there's even masajid you find there, right?
Yes.
There's masajid.
Historical ones.
Yeah, it's mentioned that one of the companions, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, they have a masjid there as well.
Wow.
And they say that he went there, but that's kind of a bit contested. It is that specific companion went there. But yeah, I mean, China's got.
I think,
Muslims have been to China for
Ibn
sure.
Battuta went to China as well, bro.
Really?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
he was a
As I
traveler,
remember.
popular
traveller,
traveler. He's a
innit? One of
Muslim
the-
traveler.
Yeah, it's very interesting. His journeys were
Yeah.
not for the show, but you know, they're very interesting. You may like to look at them. You know, read up on him. I think you'll probably like his character, mashallah.
Well, what's interesting is if you talk about that time, Musa, one of the ways that they went into China was through trade, right? It was through trade routes and, you know, trading in spices and all of the things. And today, again, you know, China is involved in trade across the world. And again, this is another opportunity for us, you know, when they are trading, is to develop these relationships and use that as an opportunity to speak about our culture. You know, this is something that we saw in the World Cup. You know, we had people from all over the world come to Qatar and they were interested in Islamic culture. You could use that. So we have a comment here. You want to read it out?
There are over 20 million Chinese Muslims. They are called the Hui, while the other group of Chinese, which
The
is
Hans.
non-Muslim, is called the Hans. Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, again, you know, it's interesting. Like there's a Muslim presence and there's history in China, and so yeah, you know, Dawah is for everywhere and across the world. And again, you know, if you were looking for a methodology, the Go Rap is a great way again of explaining Islam to people. So don't forget to go to the website training.ira.org. But yeah, China's a really interesting place. You know, have you been to? Is that on your list, Imran, Musa?
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to go. You know, you were mentioning about the trade routes. There's
Yes.
actually the famous one. Even books have been written on the route itself. The Silk Road.
The Silk
called,
Road,
right?
yes.
And like beliefs went across the Silk Road, languages,
SubhanAllah.
clothing, spices, as you mentioned. So it was
Yep.
a very significant route, and obviously that connects with China.
Yes.
So that I'm sure maybe would have been one of the routes that, you know, Muslims may have taken
100%.
back in the day, you know.
100%. It's definitely
So,
valid.
you know, another thing it shows us, yeah, is the priority that Muslims even back in the day gave to da'wah,
SubhanAllah.
right? So it's like there's always been people, you know, it's as if there's always been people who are actually giving da'wah, you know.
What's
Certain
interesting
people.
is those people you're talking about, obviously trade, you know, is business, right? And so business is all about making money and, you know, and like as a business owner. So it just shows you, like, you know, it was not disconnected. The deen, doing dawah, you know, making money as business, you know, it was all interconnected. And again, like you said, the priority was there. And so there's something that we need to understand as well in today's day and age. Sometimes we disconnect. We almost like say, okay, this is our dawah time. This is my business time. This is my family time. And it's all sort of disconnected. Whereas maybe people of the past, it was a bit more holistic and the priority was always there. So again, like if you're involved in business, you know, if you're involved in trade, you're talking to, you know, people that are not from a non-Muslim background and you develop relationships. Maybe this is, you know, something that for you to think about, you know, how can I use this opportunity to share the message of Islam, you know, in a sort of a business sort of way. And a way you could do that again is using the Go Rap methodology. It's a very simple way of doing that. It's something to think about, Imran.
Yeah, yeah. of
Dawah
course.
through business. What do you think, Musa and Jamal?
I think one of the things also to keep in mind is
If
that
there's money involved, Imran is involved.
yeah, right, Musa.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just put me off now, so I don't feel answering him.
From a Muslim sister asking what advice would you give to a sister who is giving dawah online, because obviously she may come across males who would be, you know, looking for information on Islam.
That's an interesting question. I can.
Just repeat it so they can hear it as well.
So the question was, the sister's asking about how to give dawah online. She wants to know how to give dawah online, but obviously she's just concerned about in terms of the interaction with males and also protections as well, safeguards in place. And so, yeah, this is obviously an important aspect. You know, we're living in a digital age, we're living in an online age, and a lot of dawah is happening online, and we should use this opportunity, you know, this technology to share the message of Islam. So, alhamdulillah, one of the things that we've developed in IRA is the One Reason Chat program. You know, it came because of COVID. We were forced to, you know, I look at different ways, and alhamdulillah, it's still going to this day. You know, a couple of years, it's growing. We're getting really good results. So if you want to get involved in dawah, you can sign up. If you go to the IRA website and go to volunteer, basically we have a whole program where you can sign yourself up as a volunteer. We take you through a training program, then we allocate you to a team, and through the comfort of your house, using your telephone, using your laptop, hours that are suited to you, that you can speak to people that are being targeted, that want to learn about Islam. And then that way is sort of, you're protected. And so the way we do it is through Facebook, through the chat tool. So your identity is sort of protected. So, you know, it's all, and so we have these measures and we have these groups in place. So that's one way to do it. If you're just talking about generally, Imran, what advice would you give her just generally, like say she's just online and wanted to give dawah?
Just you know, there's just play, be safe. That's it. You know what your, you know, we should know what our limits are.
Yeah.
If it's a chat and there's no images being shared and there's no, you know, it's just text on the screen basically, right? It could just be an AI that's talking to someone. So I don't see an issue with that. But obviously if you're alone and there's some video, you know, involved and stuff, then yeah, it's questionable. You know, you need to be careful to avoid that stuff basically. But if it's chat on a screen with no IDs, like you said, you know, that type of environment, Ira's got a really nice setup. So that'll be a good place to start at least, inshallah, just to get some experience and maybe somewhere you want to continue because it is safe and it's already, the system's there. You just get in, get on, do your dawah, and then you know.
Yeah, what I would say is, you know, just basic common sense stuff like don't share any personal information, right? Also, you know, try and, you know, put the protections in place that Islam tells us to, like, so, you know, if you need to have a third or other people there, so you make sure that the conversation is kept, you know, within the bounds. So just put, you know, protections in place, because you could start off with the best of intentions, you know, but it could lead to something that can go, you know, bad. And there's a famous story of the monk of Barsisa. I don't know if you want to mention that, Musa. It's a really good lesson.
It's a long
it's a bit
story,
too long.
bro. We're just gonna.
Oh, okay, fine. So we'll move on, inshallah. But
let's take maybe couple more, two more.
Clarifying.
Yeah, just clarifying.
No, nothing
Oh,
like
no, nothing like that. Okay. Khair. So hopefully that answered your question, inshallah, sister. Next question.
that. Right. Jazakallah khair, got it. Perfect. Musa's, you know, enjoying his time playing with the cameras, flicking from one person to another abruptly, and he's finding it quite entertaining. So we're letting him continue. Who has the priority in terms of giving dawah to okay, who has a priority in terms of giving dawah to Muslims or non-Muslims? Let me think about this one for a second, because there's a way I want to. I know I know what I want to say, but I want to phrase it in a particular way.
Well, let's be honest here. There's a lot. This is quite a common question that always comes up. You know, when we're out there, we're doing all of our sort of dawah programs in different communities, and this question does get asked, which is like, okay, you know, our focus is giving dawah to non-Muslims, right? That's what our main
focus,
objective.
but I think they're asking in general.
Yeah,
terms,
so I'm just linking that to like one of the questions we get asked is like, you're giving all of this dawah to non-Muslims. Why are you neglecting the non-Muslims? Shouldn't you be doing the same? And look, at the end of the day, my personal take is that, you know, nasiha, you know, dawah, when we talk about dawah, if you're looking at it from a technical perspective, you know, we can bring Musa into this, is dawah means to invite, right? If we look at, there's no camera, but he can't talk.
Bro. Just leave him out, man.
Yeah,
Come on.
dawah means to invite, of course, right? Yes.
Okay, you want to
To invite.
expand on that, or?
Yeah, I mean, da'wah, when, for example, you know, when Allah speaks about da'wah in the Quran, you know, one of the contexts that is mentioned in, you know, is regarding non-Muslims, right? Like, you know, how Nuh alayhi salam, he said, Inni da'utu qawmi laylan wa nahara. So the word uses da'utu, which is from da'wah.
Right.
So I call my people night and day, right?
Yes.
So if da'wah is being used in that context in the Quran, we have other words, for example, like islah amongst Muslims, etc., for Muslims, etc. But da'wah, when we look at da'wah from a Quranic perspective, a lot of the time, or maybe if not, perhaps even all of the time, it's being used in a context towards. When we look, for example, when we're talking about the Prophet giving da'wah in the Quran, to be clear on what we're saying, when we talk about the prophets in the Quran giving da'wah, that's to non-Muslims.
Yes.
That's to non-Muslims. So if we're following the example of the prophets, then we should be prioritizing, or da'wah to non-Muslims should be an important thing for us, for sure. Imran, I'm sure you have something to add on this as well.
No,
You were
I think
saying
you summarized it well.
You were saying you're thinking.
Yeah, but I think you put it in the right terms, bro. Which is that when you talk about da'wah, you're inviting and calling people to Allah. So the assumption there is these are people that don't already follow that way. But that's not to say you can't make Islah, and you should be doing that with Muslims, because they can fall off track as well, and they may need clarity on certain things. So, whatever opportunities come your way, make the most of them. They're opportunities for reward, basically. So if it's advice to a Muslim, give him advice or her advice. If it's da'wah to non-Muslims, then engage in that. But generally, when we're talking about it, we're talking about da'wah to non-Muslims, which is very important, because these are people that don't even know who Allah is, who their creator is. Whereas Muslims in most cases at least know those fundamentals, although they may be having problems in their deen, etc.
What I would say as well is, again, this just comes from personal experience, is that I've seen a lot of transformation in the dawah. And so Muslims getting involved in dawah, learning about, using a methodology like the Go Rap and getting involved in dawah activities is a form of transformation in terms of becoming more practicing. And that itself leads to them giving dawah to non-Muslims. So in effect, if you look at what we're trying to do here in our era, yes, our dawah is to non-Muslims, but who is doing the dawah? The dawah is being carried out by Muslims. And if you look at these Muslims, a lot of the times there's been a transformation.
That's right.
And that transformation is because they got involved in the work, right? Like I mentioned before, that you learn how to give dawah, you understand who Allah is, the oneness of Allah, how great Allah is in your life. You should be grateful and thankful. So you do more ibadah, you know about the Quran, you make that a part of your life. You learn about the Prophet ﷺ. And so by learning the Go Rap and instilling it within yourself whilst giving dawah, transforms you, and then you get involved. So don't forget, we have all of this online on the website, training.ira.org. Or if you want to get involved or volunteer, go to ira.org. And, I believe that this is a holistic solution for this question. What do you think, Imran?
Yeah, absolutely, brothers and sisters. Just look, key is get involved. Do what you can. All of you have been blessed. Everyone's been blessed with certain skills, that you can use in the dawah. Just find out what they are. What is your calling? What is it that you can do? What is it that you can offer? And just do the best you can, inshallah. That's it. And I think we could wrap up there, bro.
Nice.
Brothers. And we'll join you guys, inshallah, next week. At an earlier time, we'll be going, so an hour before Maghrib. I think we'll be starting at 5 and ending at 6, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So we'll see you guys next week. May Allah bless you.